Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jody Lynn Craven.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Jody Lynn, I think I told you my ex-wife, who I've been divorced for almost 3 years from, is a former psychotherapist. She has her master's in marriage and family therapy. She did a lot of work with people who had substance abuse issues. And we've had a number of people on the show over the years who have helped to deal with the topic from a number of different angles. I think today's the first day we actually had a Reiki master who's going to be talking about alcohol issues. So, okay, there's like the new ground that we're covering for today. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready. You're
ready. Okay. All right. So let's go. So her name is Lauren Fay. And Lauren, first of all, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hi. Thank you. Doing great. Thank you for having me today.
We're glad to have you. You got to give us a little bit of a background. Tell us how you ended up doing. Well, I'm not going to quite put together the Reiki with the alcohol just yet, but how you end up in the alcohol circle, because that's always where we have to start finding out what the crash and burn was that led to the flight of the Phoenix afterward.
And there was a Phoenix. So the Reiki is a big part of the story, but it's part of the end of the story. So we can save that. Yeah. Well, my life was really built around secrets. On the outside, I was the picture of discipline. I was a Navy officer's daughter, high achieving student, a polished professional. I was a collegiate athlete, all of these things that seemed like everything was going really, really great in my life. But behind closed doors, I was dating a drug dealer. I was addicted to alcohol, and I was spiraling into a spiritual bankruptcy that made me not want to be alive anymore. And so that was the moment. That was my turning point when I realized that I was so soulfully defeated that I didn't even want to be alive anymore. I got sober. And for me, it was on the traditional path that we might know today, but it also was on the non-traditional path with the energy healing and whatnot. So it really just was a combination of a lot of mistaken beliefs, a lot of disserving patterns that I drank over, and of course, that's all in hindsight. You don't really know what you're drinking over while you're drinking over them. But now that I know that, it wasn't necessarily one thing or one big event. It was an accumulation of a lot of little things that felt really, really big in my body. And alcohol was a very effective tool to turn down that noise. But as we know with alcohol, it's not actually an effective tool. It works and then it doesn't work, and it makes everything way worse.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, and to be fair, you did know to a certain extent. You said you were living with a drug dealer. I know what that's like. Yeah. I had it kind of thrust upon me my freshman year of college. I ended up getting thrust into a room with 3 guys, 2 of whom turned out to be the biggest dealers on campus. So I have a sense of what that's like. It is a shock.
Yes.
And especially when it's thrust on you, like, what the heck happened here? I don't understand.
Yeah. And he came later in the picture. The alcohol, I'd already had this love affair with alcohol for a decade by the time he came into the picture. And that's when I was at my bottom. We were dating at my bottom. And the bottom flew the door open for me to come out.
I think it's fascinating how there's a pattern that happens. The pattern is we all have different levels of how far down will we go. Everybody has like a different limit, if you know what I mean. And once you reach that limit, then all of a sudden you make a decision one way or another. In some cases, unfortunately, the decision is people end up taking their lives, and you were hinting at how that could have been something for you. Fortunately, well, the people we talked to actually didn't do that. So that's how they end up on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm actually really glad that you said that, because this rock bottom, it's to everyone's own understanding. And I think that sometimes people get caught in this idea that they haven't hit a big enough rock bottom yet to change their behaviors. And that's just not true. Your rock bottom is as low as you are willing to go before it's just no longer acceptable to you in the way that you're living. And so while mine was very low, suicidal, that's pretty dang low, death being the lowest. No, you don't have to get that low, and I think that's a very important message to share. It's what is your low and what is no longer acceptable to you.
Isn't it interesting though? It's almost like there's a competitiveness to it.
Yes. Like
how low can you go?
Rock bottom. I actually write about that. Yes.
You actually wrote about that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Yeah. We'll have to get some clues about that one.
Yeah.
Because, that's a little scary, It's like playing Russian roulette.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It really is. And again, it keeps people trapped because they're like, well, I wasn't that bad. Like, well, but you're not satisfied in your life. That's pretty bad, right? So.
It reminds me of a game that we used to play when I was a kid, a word game where, one person would say, well, my life is so bad that I wasn't even able to go to school, and the other person says, you had a school? Boy, I wish we'd had a school. We didn't have a school. We had to put up with a corner in the back room. You had a back room, and you just kept going further and further down.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating.
Crazy, actually, is what it is.
Yeah.
You had a shoebox? Oh, I wish we had a shoebox.
Competition for the lowest denominator.
What a weird thing to compete over. It just is so flipped on the way that we should be living. Yeah.
It is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it comes from I think it comes from a place of justification too.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh, well, it's not that bad, justifying like I can keep going, or like my rock bottom was really bad and justifying all the horrible things that I did.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually similar to the reason why people like to take in popular entertainment, like television shows and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
They watch somebody else going through really, really bad hell. Well, mine's not as bad as that. It can't be all that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, justification, you certainly nailed it. That is the addict's language right there. Justification.
Justification.
And when I use the word addict or sober, so it's just words that are easier to say. They're not meant to be labels or, it's just easier. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they are meant to be labels. We use them as labels. They're not meant to be negative labels. They're not
exactly
meant to be,
negative labels.
Tear you down labels, but
yeah.
I mean, we need if we didn't have labels, we couldn't communicate.
There would be no language. I agree. It's like, this is the word I'm using to convey what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
No, I hear you. That's good. So, all right. So you hit rock bottom, or whatever your bottom. Maybe it wasn't rock. I don't know what your particular bottom was. Whatever level you gave it, but you hit that level.
Yeah.
And then you realize that wasn't where you wanted to go. When you're in that place, in that crash and burn spot where you finally realize you've gone as low as you're willing to go, then you have to face, well, how do I climb out of it?
Yeah.
Which can be pretty intimidating.
Absolutely. And for me, it was, I had to set aside the debilitating fear of disappointing people or feeling judged or feeling ashamed. And I had to, ask for help. And it wasn't just ask for help. It was also, I had to let people know what was actually going on behind closed doors. Because like I said about my story, my life was secrets. Family especially were shocked. They did not actually know what was happening behind closed doors. So what you're saying here is the very first thing I had to do was open that door and let people in so they could see what was really going on and ask for help, or tell them I wanted help, tell them I wanted to change the way I was living.
How did those conversations go?
Well, in hindsight, they could have gone smoother. I was so convinced that my family would be disappointed in the addict side of me, that they wouldn't be so proud of the side of me that chose to get sober. So I had my guard up, I had my defenses drawn, and I actually was like, this is what I'm doing. Don't ask questions. And I really love blocked because I just was, I was terrified. And so later on, I was like, oh, no, they do love you. They do support you. They're very exceptionally proud of you. They want to help you. Why don't you go ahead and let them in? And so it could have gone smoother in hindsight, but it happened exactly the way it had to happen. And, that's just how the story goes, right?
What do you think made you notice it? Because that's something you could easily gloss over.
What made me notice it? Well, I did check myself into a traditional treatment center, and they smashed your righteousness right away.
Wow.
So actually, I can tell you exactly what made me soften. It was when my counselor on my very first day asked me how my drinking impacted other people. And I was like, the audacity of this woman to ask me how my drinking has impacted other people. Let's talk about all the things they've done to me that caused me to drink. Yeah. And that got flipped on its head real quick. And I was humbled. And slowly but surely, I was able to see that I really pushed away people who would have been there to help me if I had just let them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's always hard when you're facing that, trying to deal with, here's what's really going on that I've been burying all of this time.
Oh, yeah. And even to this day, 7.5 years later, I'm still having conversations with my parents, for instance. They're still learning new things. It doesn't really end. So it wasn't all at once, but it felt like a lot in the moment for sure. Yeah.
But it also ended up launching a new career path for you.
It did.
Tell us about it.
Well, before I got sober, this is where the energy work comes in. Before I got sober, I was receiving Reiki from a Reiki master as a Hail Mary to help me, out of my depressed state and woe is me living and purposelessness. And, it felt really great, but I was already so kind of down that I didn't know how to feel that good. And so I would self-sabotage after the sessions and go back to drinking because it was like, oh my God, what do I do with all this light and love? So when I got sober, I continued to receive Reiki. And then only within months of my sobriety, I trained myself as a Reiki master and now, proceeded into Reiki master teaching. And that was my very first brick and mortar business as a sober woman, was an energy healing practice. And that has since evolved because what I did was when I created my website, I told my story about my addiction. So I ended up attracting quite a few clients who had the same story and didn't want to go the traditional path. They wanted to heal, but they wanted alternative paths to healing. And so my clientele became people who wanted to hear this addiction recovery messaging. And that expanded the business into mentorship and coaching on how there are many, many paths to healing. And this is one way, and there's lots of ways. And so I teach this one way, the holistic approach.
Okay. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. I mean, it's very alternative. It's very unusual. I'm kind of curious. Do you get any pushback from traditional therapists?
That's my biggest fear, and it just hasn't happened yet. There's just, at the end of the day, can we really debate the fact that there are so many ways? And that one way isn't going to work for every single person. It might work for one. I started my recovery in the traditional journey, and that worked for me. And then I expanded beyond it. I didn't get better than it. I just continued to grow. And with that, I needed to grow the tools I was using for my healing. So the pushback isn't really there, but
good.
Maybe it is behind, not to my face. I don't know.
Well, I mean, my opinion, this is just my opinion, but my opinion about whether or not there would be pushback is that there wouldn't be, and that the reason there wouldn't be is because the traditional therapies, while they've been able to help a lot of people, there's also a lot of kind of rough track record stuff that hasn't really worked out well. Like the thing that's coming to my mind right now are 12-step programs. People who enter a 12-step program and they don't do anything else except a 12-step program have a 6% chance of overcoming their addiction. That's a 94% chance of failure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that low?
Yeah. If they're not doing any kind of therapy or group work outside of the 12-step or anything, it's 6%.
It does take so much more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a talk about humbling. I mean, I think the entire industry has gotten humbled over the years when they realize, oh, yeah, it's us too.
Wow. Yes, because, and again, it's an effective tool and it's just one way. It's not the whole way, in my opinion. And the focus of 12-step programs is really on the problem or the substance. There's like, for instance, AA, very focused on alcohol. And I was, as I was growing into my sobriety, I was like, I don't want to talk about alcohol anymore. I want to talk about the life I want to create for myself. I want to talk about my goals. I don't want to talk about my problem anymore, And so I feel like it kind of tethers you to your past. And there we go with the competition on who has the worst rock bottom. And we become our story of pain. And I wanted to be the story of liberation and the story of hope and possibility and potentiality. And so it was like a magnet where they were like polarizing against each other, the two different ways of conversing about healing.
It's kind of like what you call, I can't remember, there's a word that you've been using lately over the last couple of months about, it's not psychologists, but do you know which word I'm talking about? It keeps you like in a victim state.
You have the victim psychology.
Victim
Victim
mentality.
psychology. Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to that same preference, or like line of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much overlap there. I'm not sure that you could find a whole lot of differentiation.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really just two ways of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Sad but true.
Yeah.
But it's also true that the excuse me, my throat is just completely full. I don't know why. It's also true that anyone who goes through any kind of a treatment program, whether it's traditional, whether it's alternative, whether it's a combination of the two, it isn't the treatment that makes the difference. It's the choice that they make themselves to make a change and how true they are to that choice. And really, all of the therapies are aimed at trying to encourage that. I mean, even Reiki, life force, that's what Reiki stands for.
Yeah.
All the life force is about is helping you get to a point where you can make a decision.
Yeah.
That's all it's for.
Yeah. 1,000%. You absolutely nailed it. It all comes down to choice. I don't have relapse as part of my story. When I chose to get sober, I've been sober ever since. And there's some like, what are you, a unicorn? And it was like, no, I was so decided, my choice. I made that choice with such conviction that nothing was going to get in my way of that choice. And it was very uncomfortable, and it took an exceptional amount of work, but I had made my decision. And that is so, so, so important. I don't believe you can be free from addiction if you don't actually make the choice to be free from it. Because we're human beings. We are so much more powerful than substances. But in the traditional way, they give more power to the substances. And it drives me bonkers, honestly.
Isn't it odd, though? It really is.
Like, let's not give power to a liquid in a bottle. We are humans with autonomy, authority, and choice. But yes, addiction is addiction. If we consume these things, we will give our power away. But if we choose not to consume them, we won't. And so it really comes down to that choice.
And going back to the point you made, Jody Lynn, about victim psychology is all about giving power away to externals.
Absolutely. Everything that happened to you or to me or through me or what around me or whatever, it's all of these other things' fault.
Yeah.
I like the one went around me. I like that one. That was good.
But it's true, right? It's all these things, and focusing on all of those things. And that's the reason why. I can't move forward. And again, that's as harsh as it sounds, that's another choice. To choose to focus on those things versus focusing on something else or finding a new perspective.
Yeah. And it strengthens Walt's argument too about the requirement of additional assistance and support, because it's almost impossible to call yourself out on being a victim. It's really something that takes reflection and the willingness to have an open and curious conversation to see your actions differently. But a victim's not going to call themselves out as a victim. It does take support, therapeutic support. Yeah.
And that's one of those, oh, damn moments. Like,
yeah, it really is.
I need to have somebody else. No.
Well, not only is it like I need someone else, but it's also like, well, damn, if that's my identity, then who am I going to be if I'm not a victim?
That's right.
Now you're in this identity crisis.
Absolutely. And then you bring in like the conversation about forgiveness and, now, okay, I don't have an identity because I'm no longer identifying with this thing that happened or substance abuse or whatever, fill in the blank. And now, so I have no identity and I can't blame it on this thing anymore. And like, what do you do from there?
Yeah. Yep. And forgiveness is nearly impossible if you're a victim, because you're not going to forgive the person that you're still blaming, right?
No.
So it's messy, but you're right. You pull out the victim, you pull out the blame, and you turn to forgiveness. And in between, you're in this messy middle where you're just floating in the abyss, having no idea how to exist. It's a weird transition. I don't believe you go from addiction to enlightened, right? You have to go through the messy middle, and a lot happens in the middle.
I don't think you go from anything to enlightened.
No, enlightened was a strong word. Yes. That was a big word choice. I agree.
I think there's always that mess in the middle. And that's a part of the beauty is experiencing and changing your perspective and changing your mind and seeing, your story through a different lens. Like that question that they asked you, how has your drinking affected other people? you weren't even thinking about that before. You didn't even want to think about that. That's a part of the layer though, right?
It's a part of the layer. That's one thing that is often said about addiction is, the addict thinks about themselves, a lot of self-centeredness and selfishness. And I don't disagree with that. We really just think about what our problems are and how our lives are falling apart and how, all the bad things are seemingly happening to me. And it's just me, 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 me. It's all about me. So
but then it also transfers, and this is just my experience, it also transfers to the people around the addict. Like, because my mom was an alcoholic, then this, or because of this. And
yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I had a very frank conversation with one of my siblings actually this summer. My mom is an alcoholic, and she was an alcoholic, like would drink a 40-pounder of whiskey a day, kind of alcoholic, like very devout.
That's a large quantity. Yes.
She was able to drink. But I don't really remember a lot of it because it was when I was a child, and I remember bits and pieces and whatever.
I'm worried about that. She doesn't remember a lot of it either.
Exactly.
I wasn't going to say that, but you said it.
I would agree with you. I don't know how you function. Like I used to be able to drink a lot more than I do now, but I have like 2 beers and I'm like, woo!
Yeah.
One shot, like, oh God, we're not going down the right track here. But it's interesting because, my mom was sober for a really long time. And then she started drinking wine and whatever. And she never went back to hard alcohol, but she was drinking wine for the last several years. And at the beginning, it bothered me. Like I would just tear a strip off of her every time I saw her, grab wine or like whatever. I would just be angry. And I don't even really know how I worked through that. I'm not even really sure. I think it was the bigger process of working with my relationship with my mom, because it wasn't good for a long time in our lives. We didn't get along. We always butt heads, and she would pick on me, or I felt like she was picking on me all the time. And I made it my mission, over the last decade, really, to switch that, to change that, to see a different perspective, to fall in love with her again, the things that I could love, and let go of the things that I couldn't change. And that melted away. And this summer, I was having a frank conversation with one of my sisters, and she said, I just can't be around, mom when she's drinking or she's like that, or, whatever. And for me, from my perspective, I said, whether this is right, wrong, or indifferent, but I said, you need to disconnect the button. For me, it was a choice of, I want her in my life. She doesn't drink like she used to, but she's a 75-year-old lady. So she has a glass of wine. And she's not like drunk or anything like that. And not to excuse any of those things, but that's her choice. It's not good for her body. I don't agree with it. It's probably not going to get her where she wants to go, but she's a 75-year-old woman. She can decide for herself what she wants for her life. And I disconnected that button and just decided it wasn't worth the angst and the anger to get upset over it, because she wasn't going to change. She's not going to stop. For me or anybody else, that's got to be her choice when she's ready again to completely let go of it. And I said that to my sister, and she did not like that.
It reminds me of a line from a movie. I don't even remember what the movie was, but it was a movie where there was an older woman and a younger man. They weren't romantically involved, but they were in some way connected to each other. And the younger man makes a comment about the older woman's drinking. And to use your mom's example, because she's 75, are you going to tell a 75-year-old woman how to drink?
Exactly. I mean, she's 75. She's going to do what she wants to do. And she's earned that privilege. It's her body. It's her life. It's not harming me in any way. And maybe the perspective is different for my sisters because they're older than me and they saw different things and whatever. But for me, my mom and I had a lot of hurt between us. And I chose to let those things go, to see all of the beauty and a different perspective, and choose that even when she says some things that I don't like or does some things that I don't like, I immediately go to her heart and her soul as a soul on this earth. If she knew how much that bothered me or that hurt me, she probably wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do it. I know that. She's got a big heart. So that helped me just let go of it and just let her live her life and live her own choices. And instead of just getting upset because getting upset was getting me nowhere. Like,
Yes.
you wouldn't care. Okay, you're mad at me, whatever. You didn't care. So
Yeah.
Your perspective is so beautiful, and it's just one option, right? There's maybe like a sister, for instance, who maybe still feels the hurt or the pain and isn't where you are yet. But I think the one guiding question is, how do I want to feel? Like you yourself, how do I want to feel? And what do I need to do to make sure I feel that way? And for you, it was disconnecting the button. Is that the word that you used? And that's exactly what you needed to do to make sure that you were able to be in love with your mom and be in peace with your mom. And I just find that to be extraordinarily beautiful and brave as well. Obviously, other options are boundaries. And if it's not working for you, you just set the boundary and you step away. But it sounded like you wanted that relationship.
Yeah,
you know?
I do. And I mean, I live 5 minutes from my parents right now. So I like see them almost every day, definitely a couple times a week. And I have a really close-knit relationship with my mom now, more so than I ever had before. But it was because of that choice. She changed, but it was after I changed and I let those things go and started to really focus on the things I loved about her. Because the drinking aside, or some of the things that she says, because she's old and she has no filter, that I could focus on those things, or I could focus on the beautiful things that she brings to the table. And the more I focused on the beautiful things, the more I saw.
I was just going to say, you used the word focus, because I was like, I don't think your mom changed. I think the lens in which you saw your mom changed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, it's a great point, though. I mean, I'm glad you're bringing that up, because it is a powerful tool that people don't realize that they have. They can choose to look at the part of a person that they choose to look at. They don't have to get stuck on the part they don't like, even though that's the first inclination of many people, is to get stuck on the part that they don't like. But you don't have to stay there. You can shift your attention. It's the same person, but you're just looking at them from a different angle.
Yeah, and even shifting the meaning of what that means. When she drinks, it means whatever, or when she says these things, it means this. Like, unless you ask the person point blank, you don't actually know what they mean or what the meaning is behind what they're doing. It's all an assumption.
Yeah. One of the, I said I broke away from the traditional path when I got sober. I joined a study group that was based off of A Course in Miracles. And the group itself was called, it's an incredible, right? Incredible text. And it was called Choose Again. So here we are talking about choice, because everything is a choice. But this whole idea, like, we are meaning making machines, everything is meaningless until we give it meaning. And what does her drinking say? Like, what does it mean? Well, probably says nothing about you, but we automatically are going to make it mean something about us, right? Or this, that, and the other. So that's another choice, is what story am I telling myself? What meaning am I giving this? And how is it making me feel? If we're going to give these disempowering meanings to stories, and that's the lens we live under, we're not going to feel very good. And we're going to see all the things that are wrong with the person. We're just like Walt says, but there's so many other things you can look at in the same one person.
Yeah. And not just in the same person, but in the same experience, whatever the experience is, whether it's a person that you're interacting with, whether it's a book that you're reading. You mentioned A Course in Miracles. I mean, you guys obviously both love that book. That book actually gives me a headache. I couldn't even finish.
Oh, it's dense.
It is very thick.
It's dense.
Well, not just
it's heavy.
Literally, as I'm reading this stuff, I'm saying to myself, this just doesn't even make any sense. This is just nonsense. And that's the way it was resonant. It was non-resonant with me. Now, does that mean it's a bad book? No, it wasn't the right tool for me, is all.
Yeah. Maybe the Course in Miracles for Dummies is what I used to flip through. Like the clip. Okay, now we've got like AI, but it's like, can you interpret this for me? Because I am not understanding this language here.
When I was in school, we called those Cliff Notes. It was the short version. Yeah.
I started reading A Course in Miracles before I got sober. And I didn't comprehend any of it. In fact, I remember slamming it shut and being like, this is someone else's miracle. Like, it's not for me, And that was the victim mentality coming through. Like, someone else can be in love and someone else can forgive. And it's not me.
And for me, it was more that I'm too analytical, and I kept analyzing the text in terms of, well, this doesn't make any sense. That certainly doesn't make any sense, and this is just nonsense.
Yeah. Understood. Yep.
And the text is so tiny.
Yeah, right.
I know. And the paper is so thin. If you highlight, it bleeds to the other side.
Yep.
It's just a mess.
Yeah.
You get the feeling they actually publish it that way on purpose?
Maybe. Probably for the trigger to see how we respond.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all part of our healing.
Really is a course in miracles.
To create as deeply as possible. I don't know which. Could be the one.
Yeah.
But it illustrates very nicely how there are going to be different angles regarding anything that we have in our lives. And it takes us right back to what we talked about before. We always have choice where we don't think we have choice.
Yes.
It's a frightening concept because it challenges so many preconceptions that we've built up in our lives.
Yes.
To realize that the things that we preconceived it's just locked in aren't really locked in. It's like, oh, well, now what do I do?
It's like a house of cards.
I had this whole thing constructed. What are you doing? You're tearing down this thing that I had constructed.
Yeah. Like literally a house of cards. You pull one card and then all these other things begin to fall. And you're like, no, what? Stay. I don't want it. No. It's terrifying.
That choice, though, also what you just said, Walt, is we do always have it. And I think sometimes the thought is to default to the external. And it's like, but I didn't choose this, that, or the other. But you can always choose how you feel inside or how you respond. So there's that inner choice, and that never goes away as long as we're alive. So we do always have to. I just don't feel like that can be debated.
Well, it can definitely be debated. I see it all over the place right now. I mean, it's fascinating watching what goes on in popular culture right now because there is so much finger pointing going on. There is so much blame psychology going on right now. And it's got to the point where it's almost comic relief because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
So clearly a lot of people haven't gotten the memo.
Yeah, correct. I would agree with that. And you're right. Everything is debatable. My belief is that there's no room for debate on this. But yeah, it's like you have a choice to be responding the way you're responding right now. It's all a choice. Yeah.
It reminds me, there was a book that came out, I think it was in the 1980s called I'm Okay, You're Okay. And it gained quite a bit of popularity. It was like one of the early self-help books. Then there was a book that came out in response to it. And I like this one actually better because it was entitled, I'm Okay, You're Not So Hot.
I'm okay, you're not doing so great, though. I haven't heard of those ones.
Did you read it?
And it was actually a very funny book. That second one, it was a very funny book, and it really it pointed you right back to the "I'm okay, you're okay" concept, but it kind of came in through the sarcastic back door. It was very helpful in that way.
Yeah, there's a book that I read when I first started my business. It was called "Time Is Not the Problem, You Are." So a similar concept of using that sarcasm to be like, oh, yep, he's right. It's it is me. It's my time management. Yeah.
When you're working with people and you're a coach, let me not define. You define yourself. Do you consider yourself to be a coach?
Yes, I consider myself to be a holistic, alcohol-free empowerment coach and mentor. So both a speaker, author, Reiki master.
So when you're working with your clients, I imagine the people who are coming to you have already made that decision we were talking about. So that kind of smooths some of the waters. But there's got to be some times where you're contacted by somebody who hasn't quite made that decision yet. And now you're dealing with all these little issues we've been talking about here.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, and I work with women. So for the most part, the women who come to me are more in the decision than not in the decision. Perhaps they're not 100% there. And that's why they're seeking coaching and mentorship. They just need someone to maybe like kind of pull them the rest of the way through. My coaching and mentorship doesn't align with someone who is not decided. My job is not to convince anyone. And I'm not out here on an anti-alcohol message. I'm truly out here on if a woman is not satisfied in the way she's living and she's identified this thing to be one of the problems, and I am here to help her eliminate that problem, right? And create the identity on the other side of alcohol, because that's one of the biggest issues is the identity shift. It's like, who am I? And then the second biggest, or if they're tied, is, and how do I belong in this alcohol saturated world if I don't drink, belonging being like the number one human desire. So I do work with women who are mostly, yes, I would say mostly decided. And if they're not, there's other resources. I point them in different directions. And if they're physically addicted, it's absolutely outside of my wheelhouse. That's not my lane.
Yeah. Right. So essentially you're saying you work primarily with women who've already been doing some work.
Yeah, I would say who have the awareness. They've already, and awareness is some of the work, right? They've already identified that this is part of the problem. So they're starting to open their eyes a little bit more, asking themselves the tough questions, getting brave by admitting some things out loud. Because some of the times I get on the phone with women and I'm the first person they're saying any of this stuff to. So they've got that bravery coming through. Yeah.
I have a question that's been rattling in my head and I keep resisting it and it keeps coming back.
That's why your throat's blocked.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Well, the reason I'm resisting it is it has stereotype built into it, and I always resist
That's inevitable. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll bring it out anyway. It comes out of, I saw a comedian doing her shtick, and I don't even remember what her name was, but she did this thing. She was trying to describe the differences between how women are involved in a relationship and how men are involved in a relationship, and the core of her thesis, I mean, she's doing comedy obviously, but we'll call it a thesis, is that women focus on 15 things all at once, and they're trying to bounce back and forth among all of them, whereas men are on one thing only. Now, I think that's too much of a stereotype, but I'll go with it for the moment. And like, I don't remember what her jokes were specifically, but they'd be along the lines of laying out a woman who's focused on this and 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 this, and the husband saying, "Oh, please pick something." It was that kind of a comedy routine.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to associate that as just being women or just men, but I think it probably applies across the board. But nevertheless, it's a useful dynamic. Because when we talk about anything related to not just addiction, but making choices around addiction, one of the first things people are going to do is they're going to bounce around. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, it's going to happen. You're just going to, because you don't really know what you trust yet. And you know what people recognize as the stuff that everybody does. And you have certain beliefs about whether or not that stuff is actually going to work for you. And to some degree, this one might, and the other one might not. And Uncle Henry did something that didn't work at all. And, we have all these preconceptions built up in our minds about how all this is going to play out. Even when we have no idea how it's going to play out, it's not surprising we end up bouncing around in 15 things at once because we're trying to find that path. I mean, Jody Lynn, you and I talk about it a lot. We talk about how it's important to try things to find out what your modality is that works for you, what processes work best for you. But it's also the same kind of issue, Lauren, when you're dealing with, how am I going to deal with this addiction that I've been wrestling with all these years? Still trying to figure out what's my path.
Yes. Yes. Really, when we identify a problem, it's never just that one thing. Right. It's going to swing open the door and suddenly you'll start to see other areas in your life that aren't working. So that's one example of 15 things at one time. And when it comes to the work I do with women, I'm like, let's just stay here. Right. Like we can talk about you don't have to get a divorce and quit your job and move to Fiji all in the first month. Like, let's just not drink the alcohol. But in terms of the other 15 things, it's like, it's almost option or decision overwhelm or decision fatigue on how many options are available to us to solve the problem. And so it's like, which is the best one? And how much time do you give one modality and give it an honest chance to work? If you do too many things at one time, do you even know which one is working for you? Are they all clustered together? So it is very easy and I think part of it too is when you make such a big identity changing decision, such as changing your relationship to alcohol, all of a sudden it's just like everything feels so big. And the blinders come off and it's like everything all at once. And it really is, it really is just managing expectations and practicing patience, which is, like a 4-letter word to a lot of people. And just taking it one step at a time. And I know that like in the traditional rooms, they say one day at a time. And sometimes it's 1 minute at a time, one choice at a time, one tool at a time, one conversation at a time. And it's like, just let's focus on the micro shifts and not the big macro picture.
Yeah, you're reminding me of something that my ex would tell me about. She obviously she couldn't tell me about specific clients, but she would tell me things that would happen. And one of the things that would happen fairly frequently, because she worked a lot with court cases where somebody was assigned to X number of hours of therapy in order to deal with something that had led them to do something they shouldn't have done. And that meant that they were basically doing the therapy under duress, and they really had no intention of getting any better, which was extremely frustrating from her point of view.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yes.
And so she'd encounter all kinds of different, ways to get around stuff. And one of the ways that she encountered was somebody would say, well, I've been sober for quite some time now. And she'd say, oh, how long? And she'd say, well, since 9 o'clock this morning. It feeds in, though, to what you're talking about. It is moment by moment. For that person, from that person's point of view, 9 o'clock that morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that was a long period of time.
Yeah. That would feel like a long period of time for some people. Absolutely. That's why there's milestones, like making it through the first 24 hours and making it to 30 days. Something they do say in the traditional rooms is do not make any big life decisions in your first year, because changing your relationship to alcohol is big enough.
Yeah.
And it's just going to open, again, just the door to so many other things that it will feel very challenging to navigate other really big decisions as well. So.
Yeah. Well, life is good at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Life will always throw us challenges and tests.
Well, the show was originally about law of attraction. We don't touch on it too often, but there's a law of attraction thing going on there, in that you attracted whatever that particular experience is. And if you don't deal with it, life tends to send you more of it and more of it and larger amounts and, bigger 2x4s and all that kind of thing, until you finally say, okay, all right, I'll deal with it. Come on.
I agree. I was going to say, sometimes it takes that 2x4 across the head until you're like, okay, I surrender. I get it. I'm willing to listen to this message. Yeah.
There's a lady called Buddha Betty, and she had a near-death experience, and she was an alcoholic, or she was a drug addict or whatever. And her slap on the head by a 2x4 was like dying.
Yeah.
And having this, after death experience, and where, she could see all of these things, and she could see that she was going to have to redo this again and go through all of it again. And, she was going to come back as her cousin's baby if she didn't choose, or all of these things where she was like, holy man, this is crazy. And then woke up on the floor, 12 hours later or whatever it was. And she's alive again. Holy man. But listening to those kinds of stories, it's funny. Sometimes you just don't get it until you get it.
And what you just said too, holy moly, I'm gonna have to go through this again. That is one core reason why relapse is not a part of my story, is because it is so hard and uncomfortable and just gritting your teeth to get through the beginning. I don't ever want to go through that again. I don't ever want to go through that process again. And so for me to go back to substances knowing I would have to go through that again, no, I would never, I can't sign up for that, So there is a gift if you just can get through, because life is always going to give us these big moments. And then, it's not just going to be an instantaneous result, and there's probably not going to be an easy button. And if you can just keep pushing through and getting through it, there will be reprieve and relief and peace and a miracle or whatever on the other side, but you just have to stay the course. And so when you bail early and then you go back to the old ways, you're starting over, and that's so hard. And it's very defeating for a lot of people. And then it's just so defeating that maybe they just stop trying.
Something else that occurred to me as you were saying that is you described how you're suicidal at one point. And one of my other co-hosts, Joel Elston, was suicidal at one point and literally sat on a bench on an island off the coast of Florida with a handgun next to him, trying to decide whether to take his own life. And he ended up deciding not to. And I remember asking him, I've asked him a couple times here on the show, but I remember the last time I asked him about it, his answer was about as direct as I've ever heard from him. And he's a pretty direct guy. He said, I honestly don't know why I didn't do it. I can't answer that question. The only thing I know for sure was once I made the decision, I couldn't go back.
Yeah.
I had to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah. That just lit me up in goosebumps. Yeah.
Because that's what it is. And the decision is actually very hard to pin down. When did you make that choice? When did you make that shift?
Mm-hmm.
I suspect most of us would have a very hard time saying it happened at 1:32 a.m. on such and such a day. I mean, just that's not the way we tend to think about these things.
Mm-hmm.
He came probably closer than anybody. He still couldn't nail down exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
But what we do know is once you make a decision, everything starts to line up in that direction, even though it doesn't feel like it's lining up in that direction.
Yes. I absolutely agree. If we're going to be speaking, on law of attraction at all, once we do make a decision, I have a belief like the world starts to reorient itself in your favor to get you down the path in the direction of your decision. Yeah. It might not be perfect. It might be hitting road bumps and taking lefts and rights, but
not may. It will.
It will not be perfect, and you will hit road bumps. Oh, you'll like pop a tire, all the things that an axle will break, but you're at least going in that direction. And if you don't have a decision, there's no direction to go.
Yeah,
you're not pointed anywhere. Mm-hmm. So, very important.
What do you think makes somebody make that decision then?
That is a great question. I mean, for me, it was like, because I can only speak for myself. It was the biggest decision I ever made in my life was choosing to be alive after deciding that I didn't want to be alive anymore. And why did I make that decision? I think I scared myself, quite honestly. And it was just so black and white. It was like, I wanted to die and then I didn't want to die. It was just the complete opposite. And then I just kept going in the direction of I want to be alive. I don't want to keep living the way I was living. So now if I'm going to choose to be alive, what do I need to change? And that was like the thought process. But yeah, I don't know if we can nail down how someone makes the decision. It's probably deeply personal and it's obviously going to be very different for everyone.
Do you have any ideas on that, Jody Lynn? I mean, you've been there. You've been in that kind of a situation. Do you know how you make the decision?
I'm not sure I know exactly how. And I think it's a more of a feeling. Like you're at the precipice. I've never been to the point where I wanted to take my own life, but I've been in very dark times and was like not wanting to go on in that same way. And for me, it was, I didn't want to feel all of the feelings. Like I thought that I would just die there or whatever. And it was like being at the edge of a fork in the road and not going through it means this or equals this. Like, and I don't want that. So I guess I have to choose the other way. Okay. And then we go. And everything, like you said, started to culminate in that direction. I think like leading up to it, all of the big decisions I've ever made in my life, they were like building blocks. When I left the abusive relationship that I was in, it was seeing that taking the rose-colored glasses off and it's like, oh, this is my life. I didn't realize that there was another possibility here. I just thought you had a shitty relationship and yelled and screamed at each other and, he would throw things at you. That's just the way that relationships are supposed to work. But then you're going to get married and it'll get better. And then you have kids and then it'll get even better. And then like that bubble was burst for me of like, oh, that's not going to change things. And not all men are like that. So seeing things like having the wool pulled off and seeing more truths and then like, okay, well, how do I change the situation? How do I draw boundaries? How do I get more of what I want? How do I even ask for that? And trying to go down that road. And then for me, it was this like split-second decision of I was really stuck that we had this house that was underwater. It was, the 2008 financial crisis and our house was worth half of what we owed on it. And I really thought there's nowhere I can go or nothing I can do. And that's why I tried to make it work. for a while was like, okay, well, you just make this work and because you're stuck here. And then it was my dad when I said to him, like, I can't, go anywhere because of this house. And he said, it's only money. You can go and make more. It was just that 1 second of a conversation where I was like, really, you can? Oh, I guess you could. I never thought about that. Okay. And I literally made the decision right then and there. Okay, I'm going to leave him. And my dad's like, really? Are you? Yes, I am. Well, when? Well, like tonight. And he's like, okie dokie. And then he put a phone on it for me because he was worried about my safety and all of that. But so then it was real. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing tonight at like 6:30. I'm going to be breaking up with my boyfriend and I don't know, moving with my brother or my parents, or like, I didn't even know where I was going to go live. I didn't know what was going to happen next, but it was kind of building. It built for a while. And then it was like, this makes sense. Let's go.
What you were talking about, though, in terms of how you made the decision, it reminded me, I don't have a clear answer on it either. The closest I've come to an answer is I associate it with the same question about why is it we come into this life in the first place? Because to me, there's a lot of overlap there. And the best answer I ever heard for why we come into this life in the first place, why do we put up with all the pain and suffering? Why do we put up with all this stuff? Is answered by, what does chocolate taste like? What does red look like? All these things that you have to be in a physical, biological body to experience. It's the only way to experience them. That's why we come here. And I think on some level, that's the source of the decision. Like, oh yeah, I don't know what the thing is. That it's going to be a different thing for every person, but they're going to find one thing that says, I want to continue to experience that, whatever that is. I think that becomes a source. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know for sure, but that's the closest I can come to identifying what makes the difference.
Yeah. When Jody Lynn was speaking too, like there's something precedes the decision. And before we make the decision, I believe we have to have even the slightest bit of belief or willingness to believe that there is an option or a new way or a new direction. And if there isn't that, then why would we make the decision? And so it's like the decision comes after the belief that a new way is possible. And it not necessarily is going to be some white light, moment, but it most certainly is a divine intervention with yourself, because it's the shift in perspective where you didn't believe and now you do. And because of that, you make the decision. And I don't think it even has to be big. I think it's just that little energetic exchange. And then you decide. Which I would argue is big. Bigger than anything. It gave me my life back. Yeah. 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 I mean, we attribute it as being a small energetic shift, but as you pointed out earlier, we're incredibly powerful beings. A small energetic shift for us can move a mountain. Literally move a mountain. Yeah. Yes. I mean, those energetic shifts they don't have to be big. There doesn't have to be any drama in them. Get a little vibration going, you won. No drama? What? Everything was drama. It's really funny because one of the things about sobriety that just throws people in it is you're so used to being either really, really high or really, really low. And then when you're just coasting in this neutral zone, it's like, what do I do? Yeah, right. There's no drama, there's nothing is going wrong. It's such a bizarre place to be. You're looking for the other shoe. Oh yeah, always. All the time. Yeah. It's bound to drop. It's got to drop at some point. It's got to drop. I'm so used to it. Yeah. And then you learn like, oh my gosh, it's actually possible to exist without the shoe dropping. Like, oh my God, it's possible. Yeah. One of my coaches way back in the day, she had a coach. That was one of her biggest fears, is the other shoe is going to drop. And he made her nail a shoe to the ceiling. So that she could look at it every day when she woke up and see like the shoe hasn't dropped. Yeah, it's still there. So she literally had a shoe on her ceiling for years. That's wonderful. Whatever it takes. Yeah, exactly. Whatever it takes. That just little simple reminder of that hope, that belief. That's okay. Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Lauren, you have a book coming out. We haven't touched on that.
I have a book coming out. It's a memoir, storytelling, transformative book called Blurred Lines, My Reclamation of Power from Alcohol Addiction. P.S. You are not powerless. And it releases on Amazon on October 28th. In fact, it's already available for pre-sale. So Blurred Lines under Lauren Fay. Go ahead. Yes.
One of the common themes is I never intended to write a book. Did you intend to write this book?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes. I kind of always knew in my sobriety journey that I would write a book. My journey has really been blogged through my Instagram since the very beginning. I came out on Instagram as a sober woman, and I've just allowed people in on my journey from the very beginning. So I did know, but I thought I was going to write a coaching book. I didn't know I was going to spill out all my dirty little secrets. So I started writing it last August, and it just, I was writing it as the coaching book, and it just took new form. And I was like, okay, this is where we're going. And it was a spiritual experience, to put it lightly. It took me to the highest highs, the lowest lows. It cracked me wide open. It was so painfully challenging and liberating and scary, all of the things. And so I knew it was, the mission of the book was bigger than just the book. It was, for me as well. But in it shows the downward spiral, the habits that I formed, the seduction of the alcohol in my life. And then it shows the reclamation of power. And rather than just telling the reader what the lessons are, I share it through story. And I'm going to turn it over, and the reader can come up with their own lessons and hopefully maybe see themselves in the pages and have, again, that little bit of possibility or, potentiality open up inside of them for something new, for a new way.
Which ultimately is the best way to write a book anyway, telling a story.
Yeah. People love storytelling.
And just an academically written book. Like,
I know.
Please,
and now there's just so much information out there. It's so easy to get the information that we're craving story more than anything. So
absolutely true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a raw, it's vulnerable, it's exposed, and it is going to be released, and I won't have any control over it. And that has just been, what a lesson.
How does that feel right now? Because I've been in that spot too. I think Jody Lynn has too. What does that feel like to you right now?
Oh, to me or to Jody Lynn?
Well, to you, yes.
About what does it feel like to release the control?
Yeah, and it hasn't actually totally been out there yet. So you have that opportunity to feel the dread.
Yeah. So actually, if I'm being completely transparent, what it feels like right now is exhaustion, because I've been fighting it for so many months.
Oh, yeah.
And the fear has been so big. And when I finally hit that neutral zone, my body's like physical body, emotional body, mental body are just tired. So I do feel very tired right now because of the fight that I've been fighting for so many months. And I'm sure the fear will come back up on October 28th when it actually is delivered to people's Kindles. But I think ultimately I've made peace, and I do really feel the mission is bigger than my fear.
Okay. So it sustains you that way.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's probably pretty safe to say, since your mission is particularly to help work with women who are going through similar kinds of things, you probably like the idea of being contacted by them, which means we should tell them how to accomplish this wonderful thing.
Yes. If they would like to reach me, they can go through my contact form at laurenfaycoaching.com, www.laurenfaycoaching.com. That's the best way to get in touch with me. I love getting on the phone with people. The phone is so scary these days. I feel like people have this aversion to the phone, but to me, it's just, we use our words, and then you can feel the energetic exchange as well. And people start to soften and open up once they feel safe. So getting on the phone is the first step. I also love to speak in book clubs or as keynote speaker. I just love sharing the message. If you're not looking to be coached, but you just want to listen, I do that as well. So all of that can go through laurenfaycoaching.com.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. We could do another hour, because I'm thinking right now about how, well, yes, the whole thing about telephones, and now texting has kind of knocked that out. So telephones, you don't make a phone call anymore. You're invading somebody's privacy. It's a completely different mindset from what it was 50 years ago. But we could do a whole thing on that. Unfortunately, we're down to like a few minutes, so we can't really do it.
I know. It is scary, but I think that it reminds me of the first time I actually did go to an AA meeting, and I said out loud what I'd never said before. And I don't think it matters where you go. It's just the action of actually saying it out loud and being held, and then smashing that fear of the judgment or the shame that maybe you receive if you say it to the wrong person. And so when you find someone who can say, I know, I have been there, I get it, you are saying it, to a person that's able to hold you in a lot of compassion and empathy and understanding and love.
Very important. Very, very important. Yeah. Good stuff. So Jody Lynn, I got to come to you next, as I always do, to kind of tie this all together with a bow on top. I don't think this one's going to be a hard one for you. I may be wrong, but I don't think this one's going to be difficult at all.
This is going to be an easy one. I think we've gone a lot of different places in today's conversation, but I think it's so incredibly succinct that, Lauren, you talked about on your journey, you were hiding all of these secrets. And where we ended in our conversation today, and the big plug essentially for your book, October 28th, the big day when it comes out, is when you're finally releasing that burden and spilling all of your secrets. And I think it is so in alignment with what you are teaching, and you're so incredibly brave. And I want to thank you for your message today on the choices that we have. We always have the choices. We always have the opportunity to have a different life if we choose to focus on different things. And thank you for the message of bravery and hope and belief that there is something around the corner, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, especially with this journey and everything that we go through. So thank you for that message today.
Thank you for the recap. That lands. That lands really, really powerfully. Thank you so much. And to both of you for having a platform where the message gets to go bigger, right? It gets to go out. And that's absolutely incredible. So thank you for being of service in that way.
Well, we have so much fun doing it. I mean,
I can tell it was a blast
for a reason, because it's so fun. It's enjoyable to do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's much better than the fake kind of drama. This is like the real drama. The drama that doesn't have to be super dramatic, but it's dramatic, and then it leads to a conclusion like, oh, I didn't expect that one, but okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Thank you.
One other thing that we like to do at the end of every show, and something that I noticed a few years ago, because now that we are in the 21st century, I mean, you mentioned how you did your Instagram journey. You're sharing the story through Instagram. That's just one of the many ways that we are able, through the amazing technologies we have to deal with, to put messages out there and to share what we're going through. And especially those of us who've come through the other side and had some amazing transformation. And we want to tell everybody, oh, you got to try this. This is so cool. You got to do it. Check this thing out. This may really work for you. And so we do podcasts, and we create Instagrams, and we do postings on Facebook, and we do TikToks, and we do all this other kind of stuff. And people are listening and reading and watching and paying attention to it and getting benefit from it. And many of them, we never even know what happened with them. We don't even realize, we don't see it happening. We don't experience what they're going through. And so it kind of gets dismissed. And I said to myself, we shouldn't be dismissing that. So Lauren, on behalf of those people you've never met, never seen, never will meet, never will see, we've been helping in ways you didn't even know about, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.